So I bought the iPhone 14 Plus. Oh boy. And I've been using it for the last week. So I'm actually, of course, I'm still recording this with my iPhone 14 Pro Max, but I switched my SIM card over. I've been using the iPhone 14 Plus as my daily driver for about a week. And the reason I did this, other than just sometimes I get bored and I get these crazy ideas, but I really had a lot of negative stigma that I associated with the 14 Plus ever since it was launched. I thought, why would they do this? This doesn't make any sense. Last year's chip, they're charging $899. Who would want this? But there was also a lot of people that said, who still wants an iPhone SE and like now, right? Who wants the iPhone SE 2022? It's not going to sell. It's going to perform poorly. And it did exactly as I said it would. It outperformed all the Samsung flagship phones this last year. So there are people out there who don't necessarily care about getting a pro level iPhone, but want a big screen. And that's exactly who this phone is for. And also, you get it at a reduced price point. It costs $899 instead of having to pay $1099. So we're talking about $300 difference. Now, I don't necessarily think inherently it's worth $899. And I really don't like the business tactics that Apple used. Here's what happens with Apple. Normally, when the new Pro and Pro Max models, the new phones come out, like let's say last year, when the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max came out, they still sold the 12 Pro Max, but they dropped it by $100. And that's usually what they do. They drop the last year's phone price by $100. That way, if you still want to buy it, if you still want to buy last year's technology, save $100, there's usually not a big difference between the phones. So, I didn't like that they completely stripped the 13 Pro series from their lineup and they introduced this. This is basically an iPhone 13 Pro Max minus the extra camera, and it doesn't have the ProMotion display. But it still has the notch, it still has the big 6.8-inch screen. So I really thought they should have just dropped the price. I mean, if I were going to go buy one, like apples to apples and save some money, like, yeah, I would go for the 13 Pro Max, but that's not an option unless you go through a third-party outlet. You can't get it from Apple anymore. So, enter stage right, the 14 Plus. I guess they tried their hand at the Mini, and the Mini was actually, I think, a lot more popular than Apple or some other folks thought it actually was. There were a lot of people sad to see the Mini go. And I don't think the Mini or the Plus necessarily need to be an every year offering. Because, here, case in point, this has last year's hardware in it. This is a Pro Max in a Plus body. So if they want to do the same thing next year, bring back the Mini, drop the Plus, that I think would probably be a good working model because I think there's enough audience out there that wants those, and they've proven that with the iPhone SE, like the 2020, 2022. Just update it every once in a while, keep the price lower than the Pro Series or the normal price models. Maybe there's a market for that. So, abstractly, in a vacuum, if you want to go in and walk in and buy an iPhone, you don't need the extra camera, and I don't even need the extra camera. I really don't. I have not once tried to shoot any sort of a picture with this since I got it that would require me having a telephoto. So I've always thought that, yeah, I don't need that. That's fine. But also, like me as a user, I really wish the ProMotion display were here. I really like the 120 hertz. There's a big difference to me in the whole scrolling situation between a 60 hertz screen and a 120 hertz. So I would like that. And the screens, they're also basically the same, except for the Pro model does get a higher level of brightness. It goes up to 2000, like when you have it on auto brightness outdoors. HDR content goes up to 1600, baseline 1000 maximum. This one, 800 maximum, goes up to 1200 HDR, and I think 1600 maximum, if I remember correctly. But using it on a day-to-day basis, one thing I really like about this phone, it feels like it weighs half a pound lighter. And that's one of my biggest complaints when it comes to the Pro Series. Even though this phone barely weighs 1 ounce less, it feels almost like it weighs half as much. And I've had so many people, I had my wife test it, I had my kids test it. I'm like, here's the Pro Max, here's the Plus. Side by side, they go, wow, this is so much lighter. And it's kind of nice because like my wife has the 13 Pro Max, most of my kids have the 13 Pro Max. So they were just flabbergasted, for lack of better words, when I handed them the 14 Plus, and they're like, wow, this is crazy lighter. So I like that. Now, also, it doesn't go up to 1 terabyte. I don't think that's a real deal breaker. Most people buying a Plus series, not a Pro series, probably are not going to be in the 1 terabyte ballpark. But basically everything else about it is the same. It's effectively just the normal size, like the normal iPhone, just a little bit bigger. And this harkens back to the days of old when we had the Plus series. Remember like the 6 and the 6 Plus? The 6S and the 6S Plus? I like the Plus size. So my experience with this phone has actually been pretty good. And honestly, yes, it was a very, very noticeable for me at first when I started using it, and I'm like, okay, the page flipping, everything, like the scrolling, just it all seems laggier and choppier because it doesn't have that ProMotion display, the 120 hertz. I'm used to using 120 hertz on basically everything. They should have put at least a 90 on here. I don't see how Apple is still getting away with this in 2022. This is, the latest models in 2023, and they're still selling $800, $900 phones minimum price tag with the 60 hertz refresh rate. Most people, again, probably don't care, but the industry standard in Android has definitely, for the flagship level pricing, which is basically what this is. This is flagship level pricing. It's $900, $899 plus tax. If you buy it unlocked, you pay the extra like $20. So it's a $929 phone, what I paid for from Apple. So yeah, I really feel like what they're offering is not lining up with market expectations, especially when you look at the Androids and you look at where we've been at for the last couple of years. And finally, yes, we do have the ProMotion display with the Pros. Apple tries really hard to protect that whole Pro thing, and arbitrarily they turn off and turn on certain different features that you get with them by way of just calling it Pro. Like they charge you more money, you get extra things. But this phone is no slouch. And if you don't care about those things, most people, I think, who are not a tech enthusiast, who are going to go into the store and go buy one of these, go, okay, I like the iPhone, but I don't like the smaller screen. I want a bigger screen, but I don't need all those Pro features. I don't want to pay $1,100 to get the base model phone. Why isn't there a phone like this for me? And I think that it was smart to come out with the Plus. I wish it was $799. I would have less heartburn at $799. I think the regular iPhone needs to be $699, but that's just me. So if this were $799, I think it would be the sweet spot. But at $899, I think I hate to use the word fair because I think it's overpriced. But in the Apple world and the way Apple prices things, I think it's fair for what Apple consumers are used to and what they normally expect in a price point, because Apple has to be premium, right? They can't sell you a $500 premium phone because that's just not a premium phone, even though that's what the phone's worth. So taking all of those philosophical and my own jaded opinions away, it's a good phone. I don't like that they're selling you last year's hardware. I don't know why they couldn't just throw the new A15 Bionic processor in there, right? Why have we got to have last year's processor? I wish that they would have just put the new chip in there. I mean, I think that would have been more fair. Is it 15, 16, whatever the latest Bionic processor is. I'm drawing a blank right now. But when it comes to this phone, I think it's very good. And it's going to last for years. And the argument that we have against this is, even if you look at last year's Bionic processor from Apple, it's still outperforming in so many different areas, even like the brand new Snapdragon 8 Generation 2. So it's hard to say, well, it should have the new one. You need more of that power. But at the same time, I mean, this phone is still incredibly powerful. It's going to do everything you need it to do. It's going to be well supported for 5, 6, 7 years, however long they're going to keep this around. I mean, if you look at the iPhone 6S, it was supported for so stinking long. So I think that it's a good phone. I think if people want to buy one, I think it's going to serve you very well. And yeah, I try to keep my personal feelings out of this stuff. I've actually had a pretty enjoyable experience as far as iPhones go. And if you watch my videos regularly, you know I'm not a big iPhone fan. I record my videos on it. I respect the products and the platform, and I think that they serve a purpose. And also you get all the other great things like iMessage and Apple TV Plus, Apple Fitness Plus, Apple Card if you so choose, Apple Pay. There's so many different things that just keep you tied into the system. Plus, it's so nice because I use AirDrop. I record my videos on my iPhone, I AirDrop it over to my MacBook, and then I edit it right there. I upload it to the internet, and that's what I do. I make videos, and it's so simple and easy that I don't even want to use a regular camera. I've tried it before. This is much better. So I like the phone. It's been an enjoyable experience, and I think if you're interested in getting one, I think there's some things here to like. If you want to save a couple $100 and pay $899 instead of $1099, And of course, like I said, it's lighter, and you're really not missing out on a whole lot not having the telephoto camera unless you just really like to reach out and shoot at pictures that stuff real far away. And of course, you don't get the macro capability as well. But overall, for being a Plus phone, the revitalization of and bringing back the Plus series iPhone, I think it was smart from a marketing perspective, and I think it's another way that Apple's able to stretch some of their current existing hardware and make more phones and, of course, do what they do best, make money. So if you're interested in one, I think it's a good phone. The purple color, it's really, really light. If you're under the right type of lighting, it almost looks like an off-white color. It's not very purple at all. I wish it was more purple, like my Pro Max, but hey, at least they're getting the colors out there, and oh my gosh, I can't stand the new yellow. There was no way I was even going to buy the yellow one. I said, look, purple is it for me. I'm not buying that lemon yellow phone, but hey, some people like it. That's why we have all these colors. So to each their own. Buy whatever color makes you happy. I recommend putting a case on it to protect it. And yeah, I've got a nice AM film screen protector on here. It's nice glass, works well. Face ID works perfectly fine. And I've got a link in the description. It was like a $10 screen protector. Works out great. But overall, it's been a good experience. And also the battery life has been pretty good too. I think it's actually been a little bit better than my Pro Max, which is funny because they actually rate the Pro Max higher. But this one doesn't have the always on display. The Pro Max does. And also the screen is brighter on the Pro Max and a couple other things. So it's funny to me. I think if you turn off those things, then maybe the Pro Max could theoretically, do a little bit better, especially because it's got the 120 hertz refresh rate. If you turn all that stuff off, probably maybe you could get the extra hour or so that they're saying it's better than. But from my experience, I'm actually getting a little bit better battery life with the 14 Plus than I do with my Pro Max. And my Pro Max, I'm really not happy with the battery life because it has been a step back from the 13 Pro Max that we had last year. But so far, a week dancing with the iPhone 14 Plus devil, so to speak, it hasn't been a bad experience. I think it's actually a really good phone, and probably people who wanted this will be very happy if they wanted to go out and go buy it, because you get all the stuff you normally get, but the big screen, and you don't have to pay the extra money to get that in the Pro Max series, which a lot of people feel like they don't need and don't want to pay for it. And that's why we have this. So that's all I've got. If you enjoyed the video, if you found this helpful, if you like this stuff, if you want to see more 14 Plus videos, please sound off in the comments section. I will get back with you. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you guys next time.